Hey everyone, this is my first video blog in Israel. I apologize in advance because this is probably going to be some of the worst video taking you will have ever seen in your life, and probably will ever see. Also, I threw most of it together on the fly, so it's probably not the most stellar rhetorical material, but I hope you get something out of it and I hope you enjoy it. Nani and Pop-Up, this one's going out to you. Enjoy!
Hi everybody. This is going to be Nate's first video blog. At least I had a few comments about me not being very good at posting things or posting many pictures, and so I thought I would just combine a blog and as many pictures as I could take into one thing. So I hope you enjoy. I'm standing here in the Wadi Zin. Probably not the same Zin that is talked about in the Old Testament and the wanderings of Israel, but it's probably close to the same kind of environment. And one thing I was really interested in with the whole wandering in the wilderness was I always understood the wandering as to be wandering as in they were lost. Really, it's not that big of an area. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to be walking and to be lost because Israel just isn't that big. And so the idea is that it's not that the Israelites were lost during the 40 years that God basically banished them to the wilderness, but that they were just too scared to go and take the promised land that could have been theirs at any time. Just interesting to think about, like, a lot of times the restrictions that we have in our lives are self-imposed. It's not cursing or punishment from God, but just our own things that we are putting on ourselves. Just something interesting to think about. And this is what I'm dealing with here in Israel. Check it out. This is the kind of environment that they might have been trekking around in because there are water sources. As you can see, this is the bottom of the wadi, which is basically a giant drainage system that's formed a canyon, kind of like the Grand Canyon, only on a smaller scale. You see the water over there? Oops, sorry, I got to keep the camera straight. And so the Israelites very well could have known where these sources of water were, and they would have been trying to move from water source to water source to survive. Though, as you can see, this is a pretty hard water source to get to. And this is, like I said, also not necessarily the area that they would have been in, but kind of the same feel. We're dealing with Eocene here. That's a type of limestone, very, very soft. If we look down here, it kind of goes off into a dust, a real fine powder, which is also why it erodes so dramatically. You can see how all the layers of water as it's gone through wet season and slowly been eaten away. It's pretty amazing. God does some pretty incredible things here. Anyways, that's going to be it for my first video blog. I think this is going to be something I'm going to be doing a little bit more of just because it's a little bit more efficient. I think I convey things a little bit better when I'm speaking, and you also kind of get a feel for what's going on and what I'm seeing here. It's amazing, this land. So anyways, my first video blog. This is Nate, signing out. So I know I said that was it, but this is just too cool to pass up. So you know how I was saying how the Eocene is very, very soft and erodes very easily? Here's a great idea of what I'm talking about. This is solid Eocene rock, but you can see the divots that have been grooved by just a little stream of water cutting through here. It's amazing, and that's why we can have cool erosion like that and huge erosion like this. That's a good, I don't know, I'm kind of judging by thumb. That's a good 150 meters tall that we're looking at just straight down from just straight erosion from a quick moving stream during the rainy season and the wet season. This area usually only gets about 7 inches of rainfall, and it's still doing this. Pretty incredible, huh? That's because all of the water from many, many different little sections of the wadi are draining into this, and this will get into a incredible torrent of water when it rains, even though it only does that maybe once, twice a year. Anyways, really cool stuff. just another look at, this isn't the biblical Negev, but the greater Negev that constitutes the southern half of Israel. Sorry if you can't see real well. I understand that sunlight is not that great. Zoom in to see if this helps anymore. Not a pretty place to be. I would not want to live here for any certain period of time, but people did, and made a pretty good living out of it too. Really incredible. Also, you can see down here, well, maybe you can see, I can't really see, but down there we have these little lines going through this kind of dust field, and those are little branches of the wadi and irrigation channels that the Nabateans would dam off and redirect the water to where they needed it to water their plants. They would use every last little drop of water that they had to irrigate and to make a living. Alright, well, here we are in a cave in the middle of the Negev, so you can't see real well. It's a cave all around now. And I'm on my way out because it is time to go. This is probably the most intense experience I've had. One of the most intense experiences I've had. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of room. This is the size of a camera, so I can just barely fit. But if I can just barely fit, I'll take what I can get. Oh dear. It's also very dusty, so I'm trying not to get the camera too dirty. As you can see, my companion's out there waiting for me. Incredibly difficult to crawl into, actually.
It's pretty cool, actually. It's like a little, like, Oh yeah, we crawled into the Saints Cave.
We crawled into the Saints Cave? Hold on, it's just the Saints Cave for those of you watching. Oh dear.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. What? Yeah, it's supposed to be.
Almost there. Woo!
Camera? Oh, is this a
Yeah.
on?
Yeah, it's a video right now. Oh. Made it.
Woo! How do I turn this thing off?
No, keep it going. I want to say some closing remarks.
Okay.
Woo! And that is the Negev.
We made it.
And that's Ashley down there. Alright, that's me closing out. So, welcome to my second video blog. I am standing here at the top of the Fortress Masada, which is in the middle of the Judean hillside overlooking the Rift Valley. The Dead Sea is directly in front of me. Now, what we're talking about today is the idea of how much do we wait for God to show up. And so, why this area is important is there were kind of three different sects within Judaism during the first century. There were the Sadducees, who were kind of a noble elite group, and they were the kind of group that wanted to be working with the Romans and the Roman occupation to be kind of benefiting themselves. You gotta kind of make sure it stays in here because it won't pick me up. The second group was a group of kind of messianic waiters. And these were the Essenes who lived up in Qumran, farther up the Rift Valley at the top of the Dead Sea. And like I said, they were waiting for the Messiah to come and deliver them, kind of like expecting God to come and deliver them from the hands of the Romans, but waiting for God to do it for them, and then they would jump on the bandwagon. And the final group was a group called the Zealots. And they were of the idea that we are going to start the rebellion and God is going to jump in on our side. So like we get the ball rolling and God's going to back us up. And so this is what this area is important for. Now this used to be a palace of Herod the Great until the year 66 AD when Herod the Great is dead, and there are revolts all over the Roman Empire, and these zealots came and overtook this this fortress. Now, obviously, the Roman legion can't have a pocket of resistance just chilling out here in the middle of the desert, and so they came in and started and laid siege on this fortress in 74 AD. It fell in 75 AD. And what Clark will show you later is this huge siege ramp that is coming up this huge drop from the bottom of the valley. Not quite yet, you're good. And they were finally able to come up the siege ramp and break their way in. Now what's interesting about the story is, while they were up here, these zealots, after the Romans had broken through the wall, they were waiting for them to attack and slaughter everyone and take all the women and children into slavery. These zealots decided it would be more honorable to take their own lives and the wives of their families, as opposed to letting the Romans kill all the men and enslave all the women and children. And so that's what they did. The night before the Romans came up and took the fortress, they drew lots and they killed everyone. Now Josephus, who is our Jewish historian, says that there were 960 people that took their own lives up here, which is incredible. I mean, that's a lot of people, and this isn't that big of an area. But the idea I'm trying to get to is, these are people who were expecting God to show up in a big way. They were doing everything that they thought that they were supposed to be doing. They were rebelling against Rome. They had taken this giant city. They were using it as a base to go out into the land and cause havoc for the Romans. They thought they were following the will of God. And then God didn't show up. They were waiting up here, expecting God to show up and help them take out the Romans, and he never did. And so the question that I want us to be thinking about as a church, as a community, is, what are the times when we think we're doing what God's will is and he doesn't show up? How do we handle that? And the question we need to be asking ourselves is that God not showing up, or is it a problem with our own thinking? Or are we trying to put restraints and stipulations on God, saying, God, you need to show up in this way at this time, and putting God in a box? How often do we do that? I think a lot of times we do that more than we ought to, more than we're willing to admit. And so that's what I want us to be thinking about as we kind of go out through today. I want to give a shout out to Clark, my cameraman. He did a wonderful job. You triple whatever I'm paying you. Nate out.